and welcome back to Miss Stammann's YouTube channel. I'm Miss Stammann, if you didn't know. If you are actually following this channel and you're not a part of one of my classes, because I see you whenever you're here, hello. A quick little introduction about me. I am Mrs. Lindy Stammann. I am a teacher at Alief ISD in Houston, Texas. And the main reason why I created this channel is because of the coronavirus situation in Houston and honestly everywhere is preventing schools from actually physically meeting up. And because we can't actually physically meet up, my kids don't get to have like a one-on-one discussion to answer their questions like we normally would. So in these videos, I will mention discussion posts because for our district, we have an online program that allows us to have discussions with each other, and that's what I'm referring to. So there's no discussion in the comments or anything like that. So today, we're going to talk about Scene 1 from Antigone by Sophocles. And there were quite a few things that I saw in the discussion post that weren't necessarily questions, but I do feel like they may be misconceptions, or there was just an oversight for all parties involved in actually discussing what is happening right now. So I'm going to start all of this off with, what is the law situation? Well, there are two different hierarchies of law inside of not just the story, but inside of the community of the time that it was written. So you have the gods' laws that we're assuming were created whenever man was created. They were superimposed to man. This is what has to be done. And then we have man's laws, or Creon's laws, since he is a man and he's not a god. That is supposed to be subordinate to the gods' laws. They're not supposed to contradict. And that's the hierarchy. You're supposed to follow the gods' laws first, and then you can follow man's laws, and so forth. Well, now we have this interesting situation, and we have Creon, who's making a man's law that he's telling his entire people and populace is above the gods' laws. So we have another question. Is Creon loyal to the gods? No, he's not. And we see this because in the prologue, Antigone first starts off this idea that there is a hierarchy by telling Ismene that she was going to obey the gods and she was going to bury Polynices. But then we have Creon, who's already made his decree, and he's telling everyone, no, you can't bury this guy, and if you do, you're going to die. So his law is above the gods' laws. In Scene 1, when the poor sentry comes to Creon to say that the body had been buried, the Caragus asks, well, could this have been the gods? And Creon actually explodes, and he calls them doddering fools, and there's no way that the gods would even care. And granted, this entire little outburst about the gods caring about humanity isn't necessarily talking about whether or not the gods would be pleased that he was buried. Creon's stand is that no, the gods aren't going to intervene in man's affairs, but what the Caragus is asking is, did the gods do it because it's their law? So there's a little disconnect in their argument right there, and then it actually results in Creon just getting mad and storming off into his own little castle. But there are two different hierarchies of laws, and Creon is not following that hierarchy. He is kind of making his own hierarchy, and he's telling his people that on pain of death, which means I'm gonna kill you if you break my laws, you're gonna follow my laws. So no, he's not actually loyal to the gods. And a lot of students are kind of, they're not addressing this, and this was something that just completely weirded me out. But what exactly constitutes to a burial inside of the story? Because we have the sentry who comes in, and he's out of breath, and he's not really thinking clearly, as we see, but he has this line, and it stands out to me every time, and I just go, ew, it's new dust on the slimy flesh. And That's very vivid imagery. And so we know slimy flesh is referring to Polynices' decomposing body. When things decompose, I don't know if you've ever watched something decompose as part of like a science experiment, or maybe you left food in a container in your lunch kit for too long. I mean, you went to open it up, it was all liquid. That's kind of what happens when things decompose. They go from solid to liquid, then they dry out, and then it's dust. Anyway, fun little science tidbit for you there. But we know that the body is still in the process of decomposing, and he says that there's new dust on the slimy flesh. You can still see the slimy flesh through the dust. So, has the body been buried? Not as we know it. To us, in modern day times, in order to actually bury a body, you dig a hole in the ground, put the body in the hole, and then you completely cover that hole with dirt and you pack it down and things like that. That to us is what a burial is. Way back then, and in the context of the story, the burial isn't so much as actually putting the body into the earth, but it's more of the act of covering the body with some dust or some dirt. So you get a handful of dirt or dust and you sprinkle it on the body with the intent of letting the soul rest. So, is Polynices' body still above the ground? Yes, but whoever had come in the middle of the night had the wherewithal to get a handful of dirt or dust and put it on top of the body so that the soul would be released. And that is technically a burial, because remember, the whole point of King Creon making this law in the first place was so that Polynices would have eternal torment of never being able to find rest. So to Creon, it's not so much as the body needs to stay above the ground. It is the soul needs to stay trapped. And the act of sprinkling dirt with the intention of releasing the spirit is the burial in question. So that's the burial. And finally, the actual question of the discussion post. What is Creon loyal to? So most of you guys were saying, well, he's loyal to his kingdom, because not only is he telling these people this is the law and I won't tolerate anyone who goes against the kingdom, and he's going to not bury Polynices because he went against the kingdom, and just everything he's basically doing is kingdom, 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 kingdom. And he's telling the people this. But I would like to point out a couple of things. One, when Creon is giving this address, we know in the text that he's talking to the chorus and the choragus, and then the century comes in. What the chorus and choragus actually represent are the people. So the chorus in particular represents the mass majority of the people of Thebes. So he's giving this address, which we can liken to an inaugural address. He's only been in power for like a day, maybe a week or so. This is his first public appearance, and he's addressing the people in a very public matter. We're in front of the palace, we're in the courtyard, so he's in the middle, he's surrounded by all of his people, and he's giving them this address of, I want to be the type of king that will uphold the kingdom at all costs. And so we can say, yeah, he's loyal to his kingdom. And then another good chunk of you guys are saying, well, I think he's more loyal to himself. And this is because when the century comes, the century and the other centuries who are not even like physically in the story, they're just mentioned, they fight and argue over who is going to tell Creon the bad news. They go as far as to like shooting dice and leaving it up to chance for that one poor person, who wound up being our poor little century, to go tell Creon the bad news. So why would they be so afraid of telling the king something that has to be told? Well, we can kind of assume that Creon is kind of an extreme type of person. We can see this in how he's trying to prevent people from following the god's laws. So God's law, again, is saying that Polynices should be buried. Creon's law is saying, no, you're not going to bury him on pain of death. I will kill you publicly if you actually go do this thing. So Creon has already made public that whoever decides to abide by the god's laws and bury Polynices, they're going to die anyway, even though that's what the people know is the right thing to do. And if you guys have seen Frozen 2 a million times like I have, because Disney Plus released it early, and you just heard that and you were just like, the next right thing, I'm with you. Anyway, people are saying he is arrogant enough to say that what I'm doing is more important than the gods. Therefore, instead of his loyalty being to his kingdom, his loyalty is to himself. He's doing everything he can to make sure that he has the power. He's making people abide by his laws and not by the gods' laws. He's threatening them with death. He even threatens the poor sentry. If you don't find who does this, this will be the least of your concerns. The poor guy is like, if I knew who it was, I would have brought him to you. But anyway. So, is he loyal to the kingdom? Yes. Is he loyal to himself? Yes, you're not wrong. Neither one of you are wrong. But I would like to point out that this is all public. Again, he's giving his address to the people. The sentry comes in and interrupts his speech with the bad news. So right after he tells the people, my decree is that you shall not bury Polynices, and he's so charismatic that the people are like, yeah, and then the sentry comes in and like, my lord, we have a problem. Someone has buried the body. And this is all public. Everyone is seeing this unfold. And the question is, what does a person who is loyal to a kingdom acts like in this situation? And we're going to take a look at how Creon actually acts. What does Creon do? Well, first of all, he gets angry. And everyone knew he was going to get angry because that poor sentry and all the other sentries were casting lots and trying to like roll dice and see who was going to get the bad luck of going to tell Creon the news. He got angry and he starts yelling, and the Caragus is honestly trying to soothe the situation, and he's trying to imply that, well, maybe this isn't really a problem because maybe this was the god's will from the very beginning. And Creon's not having any of it. He's like, no, my law has been broken, they shall die, find who did them, blah 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 blah. So I would like to explore the notion of, is Creon loyal to his kingdom, or is he really loyal to his own laws and public image? Because I personally feel that a king truly loyal to his kingdom wouldn't have made a law like that to begin with, when everyone growing up for generations has known and has been instilled inside of their hearts and their brains, you bury the bodies of the men because that is the god's will. And Creon comes in and makes a law that intentionally goes against that. So would a king actually loyal to his people and their religions make a law like this? I don't really know. I don't personally think so. Granted, he is a brand new king. He's never done this before. Maybe he's just trying to find a way to make sure that they follow my rule, even though there really isn't anyone else for the people to follow, because he's the next in line for the throne. And then we have how he's actually acting. Instead of trying to sit and resolve with the people and with the sentry, what is everyone going to do? He keeps threatening the sentry. He accuses him of taking a bribe for burying the body. This poor sentry is like, this is why I didn't want to come. And he gets snappy back with Creon because, I mean, the dude is pretty like positive at this point that he's gonna get some backlash from the king in some way. He didn't want to come. He tells Creon, look, no one likes the bearer of bad news. Please don't punish me. Don't shoot the messenger. Literally. And does Creon take this into consideration? No. He just gets angry that his law has been broken. He threatens the sentry that if he doesn't find who does it, then the sentry is going to die too. And then he throws his little cloak around himself, is what I'm envisioning, because he's throwing a tantrum, and storms off into his palace like a tantruming 5-year-old. Now, this could just be how Creon is, but again, I would like to just let us keep in mind the difference between Creon loyal to his kingdom or Creon loyal to his own laws and his personal image. Like, later on in the story, we're going to get even more details. They're going to help sway us towards one or the other. This is just scene 1 out of 5 scenes of this story. So there's going to be more details that's going to show us more personality of Creon, more personality of Antigone, more personality of the Caragus, more personality of Ismene, because she comes back too. But let's start to try to keep a catalog of what exactly is Creon loyal to. And I will tell you that later on in the story, a lot of characters' loyalties are going to abruptly shift, all right? Things are going to transpire in the story that are going to change the minds of quite a few characters. And I just want us to be keeping a catalog of everyone's loyalties and why they're loyal to these things. So what is Creon loyal to? Is he loyal to his kingdom? Yes. Is he loyal to himself? Yes. Is he loyal to his own laws? Absolutely. He's, like I said, he's threatening pain of death on anyone who breaks his decrees. But one thing that we haven't seen him be very loyal to so far is his family. Is he loyal to his own family? Well, Polynices is his nephew, and Eteocles is his nephew too, but you guys were all saying, what would you do in this situation? You all came down to blood is blood. I would bury my brother. I would break the law. I would do what Antigone wants to do, and I will go out and I will bury my brother, even if it means that I'm going to die. But Creon doesn't have that mentality. To him, it doesn't matter if you're family. So let's keep these ideas in mind and try to follow what is everyone loyal to. So as far as we know at this point, Antigone is loyal to her family. She's also loyal to the gods' laws. Ismene is loyal to man's laws, or Creon's laws, but she's also loyal to her family because she swears to Antigone, I'm not going to tell anyone what your plan is. Now, if Creon were to find out that Antigone was planning on doing this and Ismene knew, even though she wasn't going to go help bury the body, do you think that she was going to get away scot-free? No. No, not with the way that everyone knows that Creon's temper is. The sentries don't want to tell him news that has to be told to him, so we can only assume, like Ismene assumes, what would happen to her if it was found out that she did know about it. And Antigone even throws this in her face. Remember in the prologue, Antigone's like, tell everyone. Imagine how they're all going to hate you when they find out that you knew about it this entire time. So there's just a whole lot of really interesting overlapping conflicts and overlapping loyalties, and then loyalties that don't even overlap, but they're impacting how other people respond. It's just so fascinating, just the idea and concept of loyalty inside of this story. So anyway, those were some of the misconceptions or confusing areas that I saw or anticipated that a lot of people were having. So we have 2 different hierarchies of laws. We have the gods' laws on top, and then man's law is supposed to be underneath that, but Creon doesn't abide by the gods' laws, and so Creon's making his law go above the gods' laws, even though that's technically against the law, all right? A burial is the honest act of covering a body with dirt or dust with the intention of letting the soul be at peace, which is what Creon didn't want to happen. And what is Creon loyal to? We're going to keep exploring what he's loyal to, but right now, he is loyal to his kingdom, but I personally would like to argue that he's more loyal for his own laws and his public image. So, that being said, this has been Antigone by Sophocles' Scene 1. Scene 2 will be out next week. Thanks for watching. If you are not a part of my class and are watching anyway, hello, nice to see you. If you have any questions and you're not a part of my class, you can also leave them down below. We are creating this little community over here, and it's kind of cool. But anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!